Welcome back. Let's remind you of our breaking story that the Minister of Health, Dr. Osage Hanire, has just confirmed that there are now 2 cases of the coronavirus infection in Nigeria. The minister says the newly confirmed case is a contact of the index case and not an importation into the country. The minister is currently holding a press conference in Benin City, the Edo State capital, on the situation, and we'll continue to keep you updated as we get updates on that. Well, let's continue the program now with an opening call to the debt and currency markets, and an FX dealer with Access Bank, Taiwo Olajubu, joins me now from the FMDQ marketplace. Good morning, Taiwo. Well, bring us up to speed with the state of the currencies market at the moment.
Thank you. The state of the currencies market at the moment, we've witnessed slight depreciation in the market, considering the shortfall in the market. It's been an illiquid market since last week, and a lot of FPIs have been panicking, considering the level of liquidity in the FX market. The CBN has largely been the one intervening in the FX markets, given the low levels of liquidity, and as a result, we saw rates depreciate to 366 levels last week, and this week we also expect a further depreciation, considering the oil price fall to about $30 over the weekend. So we expect to see further depreciation this week and panic buying of the NDFs just to hedge exposures by corporates.
With the dwindling FX reserves and falling oil prices at the international markets now, as a trader, do you foresee Naira devaluation as a possible way forward?
Going forward, actually, we expect to see a slight depreciation in the Naira. However, the CBN has stated that it will continue to defend it. But given that these variables are exogenous variables, there's a limit to how far the CBN can go to defend the Naira. So we actually foresee a slight depreciation in the Naira.
All right, FX dealer with Access Bank, Taiwo Olajubu, thanks for joining us on the program.
Thank you.
Let's move now to the streets of London, where Juliana Olayinka is standing by to bring us updates today. Good morning, Juliana. I'm sure it's not too late to wish ourselves a happy International Women's Day.
No, not at all. Happy International Women's Day to you too, Bissy, and the entire team behind the scenes.
Absolutely, Juliana. Now, Prime Minister Boris Johnson is holding an emergency coronavirus meeting. What should we expect to hear?
Well, we're going to expect to hear a lot of things. I've got to say, I heard your breaking news about your second diagnosis of COVID-19, but here, Bissy, the huge news that everyone's talking about is the bloodbath that's happening with the FTSE 100 at the moment. Of course, we've got that fight, that oil spat going on between Saudi Arabia and Russia, and it's really heavily affected the FTSE 100. They've had about £150 billion wiped off their shares. They don't use the word crash lightly, but that's what's being heard on the news in the UK at the moment. BP, Shell, Brent crude oil, their shares are all down about 20%. It's a huge, huge story. And so everybody's talking about it. Back to what you were saying about the emergency Cobra meeting. Yes, we have 278 cases of coronavirus in the UK. A third individual died over the weekend. Boris Johnson will now be speaking with senior ministers as well as the chief scientific officer and the chief medical officer for England and Wales in the next couple of hours. They're likely to take us out of the first phase, which was the phase, let me make sure I get it right, the phase to contain, to delay. And delaying is now what they're trying to do. There are some reports that suggest that up to 100,000 people could die. These are tabloid headlines, so I'm not trying to scare anybody, but there are major concerns because there seems to be a rapid increase. I think we got 64 cases in one day over the weekend, so it's really worrying individuals. We've got the spring budget on Wednesday, and that budget has now been dubbed the COVID-19 budget because all sources and all revenues will be to try and stop this COVID-19 getting out of control here.
But many of the City of London's biggest institutions are taking steps to combat the spread of the coronavirus. Now, what's the update on this?
Well, they are, yes. HSBC on Friday, they sent 100 people home out of their 10th floor in Canary Wharf, and that was because one of their colleagues who had just flown back from northern Italy was diagnosed with coronavirus, and this was the first kind of big city company to confirm that one of their workers had the deadly infection. So JP Morgan and Goldman Sachs, they'll be trying something over the next couple of days where they'll be pushing some of their senior staff into temporary working spaces just on the outskirts of London. And of course, a lot of staff can work from home. There are some industries, like our industry, you can't work from home. So they're trying to have some measures in place just in case it does get out of hand, particularly as, of course, if you work in the city, you work in trading, you do travel to all of these hotspots, particularly China with HSBC. So, yes, they're trying to mitigate against these circumstances. So they'll be trying these test work offices from later today.
All right, Juliana, just before you go, now away from the COVID-19 talks, now British Steel takeover is set to be completed today. What would this mean for the workers?
Well, it's a good story. It's a story that's run and run. British Steel, at its heyday, was the second biggest steel manufacturing company in Britain. They struggled because, of course, a lot of people were getting cheap steel from China. The government did try to bail them out, but it didn't work. But then there was a big Chinese firm called Yingye. Last year, they put in a bid of £50 million plus a promise of £1.2 billion worth of investment over the next 10 years, and the promise to save a bulk of their staff. British Steel did have 5,000 staff. Apparently 3,000 will be saved. Unions say it's not enough, but, you know, the deal is going to head. So we're expecting probably at intraday for the ink to be signed. But it is a goodish kind of story because at least there is hope. And, you know, this Chinese firm say they really want to try and restore some of the old glory back into those steel development sites.
All right, Juliana, thank you. I'm sure you have more updates at 1:30 on Business Incorporated. We'll see you then. But it's all about Women's Day still, and Edidion joins me now to lead us into the week of trading at the equities market. Good morning, Edidion.
Good morning, PC.
All right, let's still wish ourselves a happy Women's Day. We won't get tired of saying that, right?
Yeah, I wish you a happy International Women's Day.
Yeah, thanks, Eddie. So we're seeing crude oil markets tumbling by the day. How will the markets adjust to this new price?
Well, the truth is, it's going to hit the markets. It's hitting everybody now. Despite the market closing positive last week, sentiments were weak. You know, so investors are advised to trade cautiously and take position in fundamentally justified stocks. Now, just like in the last trading week, we're likely to see bargain hunting, sell-offs, and profit-taking dominate the market this week, unless there's some positive catalyst from the fiscal or the macroeconomy. The coronavirus keeps hitting the global economy and markets, and just the fact that OPEC failed to reach an agreement, that has dragged oil prices, and that's a big hit for us here because you and I know that Nigeria is a largely oil-dependent country, so it's going to take a lot, and we'll need to find a way to adjust, but for now, the markets are going to react negatively to that. Oil prices have been falling even before this due to the coronavirus, and that affected the markets last week. There were sell-offs in the OMO segment of the market due to, you know, the same coronavirus and falling oil prices. And with this drastic drop in oil prices, foreign investors are going to continue to sell off in the OMO secondary market. The Treasury bills market has been quiet for some time now, and that's likely to continue, you know, but then there's going to be a primary market auction on Wednesday. So investors will be paying attention to that to see how, you know, that will go. But that side of the market is going to be quiet. For the bond market, it was bearish last week because everybody was just reacting to the same coronavirus and falling oil prices. So this week, chances are the market is going to remain bearish as everyone is just going to be on the sidelines waiting to understand the way the markets are moving and to see, okay, so what direction are we going? But OMO maturities and FGN coupon bond payments are going to be hitting the market this week, and that would likely cause some contraction in overnight lending rates. But like I said, BC, unless there is some positive catalyst from the fiscal space, from the monetary space, or from the global economy, markets are going to be bearish this week. So let's keep our fingers crossed.
Especially with the case or the second confirmed case of coronavirus in the country.
So today we're likely going to see the markets reacting to that. I don't expect a positive trading day today because this is the first trading day after everything that's happened. The global oil prices. Now Nigeria has confirmed its second case. So we're most likely going to close the market negative today.
Many thanks, Eddie, for this update, and we'll see what directions the markets swing. Maybe there could just be a miracle. Who knows?
Hopefully, like I said, fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. And just before we wrap up the show, let's remind you of a breaking story that the Minister of Health, Dr. Osage Hanire, has just confirmed that there are now 2 cases of the coronavirus here in Nigeria. The minister says the newly confirmed case is a contact of the index case and not an importation into the country. The minister is currently holding a press conference in Benin City, the Edo State capital, to update us on the situation. Of course, Channels TV will continue to keep you updated as we get the information. And that's our program today. Thank you so much for watching. I am BC Adebayo.